What's going on, everyone? So as some of you know, I recently built the motor in my body swapped Miata, and I've been turning the boost up. Unfortunately, after we got over 14, we started getting spark blowout pretty bad, and if you really ease into the boost, you can kind of avoid it, but you can never go full throttle. So what I'm going to be working on today is converting the car to wasted spark and running an LS1/LS6 coil pack setup on it. I've already taken the liberty of cutting up the wiring harness and converting it to the coil pack plug. I'll show you also where I plan to mount the coil pack setup. Okay, so I plan to mount the coil pack setup in the exact same spot as the original coil pack setup, behind the head. I've already mocked it up and it does fit in there. The plug wires look like they're going to be a little bit tight, but I think it will work. As far as the coil pack harness, this is the original wiring harness for the original coil packs. The butt connectors are just temporary. But so what we got going on here is the coil pack connector is labeled alphabetically, and we'll start with pin number A, which is going to be your ground. That'll just go to a ground source right there. And pin number B, just this green wire. It could be different depending on the adapter you use. What I went ahead and did was just buy a coil pack extension harness and cut it in half and use the plug end I needed. But anyways, for B, you go ahead and tie that together with G, and they connect to the brown and yellow wire. And then we have C, which ties into F, and they tie into the brown wire, as you can see there. And then we have, well, we basically just jump down to this blue wire, which is gonna be H, and that connects into your small black and white wires. And lastly, we've got the white, which is E on the coil pack connector, and that ties into both of your solid blacks. And this harness that I'm working with is a 99 to 2000. That's what this Miata originally was, and that's basically what you're going to do when you connect up your LS1 coil pack harness. Now I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to modify the bracket in order to make it mount to the head and fit behind the head. Alright, so here's the original coil pack setup with the original bracket. Here's the coil pack extension harness that I was telling you about. You can see I cut this one off as well for a future project. Here's the original Miata coil pack. Here's the new coil pack setup. These are D580s, which is off of the LS1 LS6 setup. You're gonna read a lot of stuff online about people talking about, you know, they're the worst ones you can get and this and that, but I have personally seen, and I personally run on my twin turbocharged 408 LS base setup with a built bottom end and everything. It's running the same coils, and I've seen cars push upwards of 25 psi and more on these things without any spark blowout. So you know, you can take everybody's opinion with a grain of salt. I do usually. But yeah, the reason why I went with these coils was A, because I had them, and B, I have other sets as well, but they don't fit in as compact of a setup because I don't really want to mount them on top of the valve cover. I kind of like the Ford valve cover that my friend sent me, so I'm gonna try and keep them hidden just in the same location that they were. I like the way it looks that way. Alright, so I've got an extra cylinder head off of 99 to 2000 here. This is, again, the original coil pack setup with an original valve cover. It's not going to matter much in my situation, but essentially what I'm going to do, what I've mocked up on the car that I know fits in between the original Mazda firewall and this cylinder head. This is essentially going to mount just like that, and I'm just going to make a little tab off of the bottom here that welds to this and bolts onto this mounting point right here. So this is also where we will connect our ground that was dangling off of our wire harness. I'm gonna go ahead and get started making the piece I need, and you guys will see what I'm talking about a little bit better. The first thing I have to do is remove the point where you would hook up to pull the engine, because this bolt does get in the way of the way I want to mount the bracket, so we do have to remove this piece. Here's my little bracket I've come up with, and essentially all I'm going to do is just set the coil pack bracket on there where I need it. It's going to sit basically just like this, angling in, leaning on the valve cover. One issue that I am noting is that plug wire number 1 is pretty short. Luckily, the set that's on the car right now is in pretty good shape, so I may just be able to use a second number 2 plug wire for number 1 if it is an issue, but that's just something to take note of because it will be a tight fit. But I'm just gonna bust out the TIG now, tack this in place, and then pull it off and fully weld it. Okay, so I got it all welded together. This is the basic idea, how it looks. Mounted on there, you can see coil 1, or coil 4 I should say, almost reaches. And coil 1 reaches with room to spare. So we know that 2 and 3 will definitely fit. I'm gonna go ahead and trim this a little shorter just to make it easier to get over the wire harness. And we'll get it installed on the car right now. Plug it in. All right, now the next step is gonna be converting standard Miata plug-ins, well, coil pack plug-ins I should say, into LS1 coil pack plug-ins. And the way I do that is I cut the boot off with a razor blade, the original boot, and then I go ahead and also remove the original crimp-on connector piece. I don't know what I did with it, but I just used 2 pairs of pliers to pull it apart and take it off of the wire itself. And then we go ahead and crimp on a new plug end, coil end, and this is the crimping tool. This is the tool that I used to do it. It's made by MSD, and it comes with a set of DIY coil wires if you buy them that way, but you can also buy it individually. It uses a vise to crimp the ends on. So I'll kind of show you guys how I get it done right now. From the outside in. It is siliconed around this part right here onto the wire, so that could give you a little trouble. Looks like I just need to line up this slice right here a little bit more. I think that should do it. All right, I did nick the wire there a little bit, which is not good, but the new boot will cover that. Okay, so there's the end, and essentially the way I get that off, and just kind of peel it open. It does damage the wire a little bit, but that part does get crimped inside the new terminal, so hopefully it doesn't cause us any problems. Okay, there we go. There it is. This little piece is able to come out, and it might slide off as you put the new boot on. There you have it. And grab our plug end here, which is going to crimp on just like that. And we'll head out to the shop with the vise. Alright, so here's how it's in my vise sitting. I've got that metal tab that comes out of the center of the wire facing the back side, which is not the open side. And all we're going to do is tighten the vise down, and it'll crimp that together real nicely. I don't got 4 hands, so I'm not going to be able to hold it as I crimp it, but I'll show you right after it's done. Okay, this is the finished product. It only takes like a half a turn of the vise. Go ahead and break it out and show you what it looks like. There you have it. Crimped on end for a LS1 coil pack on a Miata wire. So now we'll just slide the boot back down and jump on to the next one. And then the next one. Okay, so here's what ended up happening. I got to plug wire, or plug number 3 on the engine. And once I made the wire, it was too short. So I ended up taking a plug wire number 2 from my old set and using that for number 3 with the new coil packs, which eliminated me having to use number 4 out of the new set, because I ended up just using number 3 from the new set on number 4, which was long enough with a little room to spare. So the next step now, we're going to be modifying some wiring at the ECU and also some settings inside the Megasquirt. A little bit, here's a better idea. So plug wire 1 was able to use a new one. Plug wire 2, I was able to use a new one. Plug wire 3, I had to use old plug wire 2. And then plug wire 4, I used plug wire 3. And this is basically how we're sitting. You can see 1 and 2 are a little tight, but everything clicks together the way it's supposed to. Don't think we'll have any issues there. And overall it looks pretty factory, you know. You can't see the coils, and it worked out decently. The only thing I would recommend, maybe go with a different wire than the NGKs, because I noticed a lot of the aftermarket ones are a little bit longer, and you probably won't run into this issue. Might save a couple bucks too. So now what we're gonna do, I have also changed out my alternator. I switched it to an early NA, or a late NA model, which has the voltage regulator inside. So we're gonna change a couple wires around at the ECU for that, so that we can get it charged properly. And there's a couple settings we have to change also for the ignition now that we're running LS1 coil packs. So we'll go get the computer right now. Alright, we're in Tuner Studio, and the first thing I'm going to do is turn off the alternator control, because the ECU no longer has any control over the alternator with that late NA style one with the voltage regulator integrated into the alternator. And then we're going to go ahead and go to the ignition settings, and we're going to change a few things. Okay, so the settings that I'm changing in Tuner Studio for the Megasquirt is we're going to be altering the nominal dwell setting and also the spark duration. Now, according to the Mega Manual here online, it calls for a maximum dwell of 6.1 milliseconds on the LS1/LS6 coils and a maximum spark duration of 2.0 milliseconds. So I went ahead and plugged those numbers in. And the next thing we're going to do is alter the battery voltage compensation table. And I'll show you what I came up with for that. Dwell battery correction. Basically, you can find online the table that shows you exactly what the dwell settings are based off of RPM for the LS1/LS6 coils. You can find them for almost any LS based coil if you dig deep enough. And what I did was there's a calculation that you'll do for each voltage level that will give you this percentage number that you need. And if you guys have any questions about that, you can just write down in the comments, and I'll definitely respond and let you know what the formula is and how you can figure it out. But for now, this is what I've come up with for an LS1/LS6 coil, and we're going to see how that works. Alright everyone, I'm working on modifying the wiring harness for the early model alternator install, and I've got the ECU unplugged. All the wires you're going to need come from the medium width plug, which plugs in right here. You can see the longer one is here and the short one is in the middle there. So medium width plug. The 3 wires you need to cut are going to be this small gray and red wire. Right next to it is a small brown and red wire. Cut both of those off, splice them together, just like that. And then the 3rd wire you cut is on the back side of the plug, and it's a solid gray, and it's right here next to the purples. It's like second one in. You cut that off and you splice that to a switched 12 volt source, and then our alternator will charge as it's supposed to without using the ECU to tell it what to do. All right, so I've connected the 12 volt signal that it needed into the output, one of the outputs from the Mega Squirt, the one that powers my gauges. And I'm pretty sure we're ready to go. So we're gonna try and start the car now and see what happens. Well, it started pretty quick, so that means we're getting spark. Let's see if we can't keep it running. Sounds like it's got a misfire to me, so could be a dead coil. Okay, so the car's running. The alternator's doing what it's supposed to do. We're getting 14 volts charging while we're running, but we are having a misfire, and it's not happening on all the cylinders. I think it's just one, so we're gonna go ahead and take a look and see if we can't find a loose connection. Well, good news, everyone. The LS1 coil swap actually went over flawlessly. I ended up running into a little trouble right at the end there that was really stumping me. When I was turning the car on, you know, it would start fine and everything, but it was running extremely rich, and it just didn't make sense to me until, I don't know, about 4 hours later, it finally dawned on me that the vacuum hose that plugs into the map sensor on the ECU had come disconnected because I had been moving some things around. So once I plugged that in, it ran perfectly. I drove around town quite a bit. I'm hitting in the mid-20s as far as the boost level so far. And after the tune pulled some fuel out because it was too rich, I wasn't getting any misfiring at all the way through the RPM band. So the LS1 coils work really well so far. We'll keep you guys updated on as far as you know, maybe what their limits are if I ever find that out. But the car is fast. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later.